a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
Whitney Holliday. Figure this out. There we go. Make sure the mic is good. Oh, came on. Advance that came on again.
This is my new job, Mr.
That phone came on again.
Do you want to just unplug it?
It's off it. It's the Holy Spirit. You're haunted of the Holy Spirit.
It's the Holy Spirit.
I don't think it'd be the Holy Spirit.
He's dialing in.
2 extra buttons.
All right. Behind the scenes, everybody realizes it. Okay. Get ready to start the show. I'm here. It's Joey Ruffalo. I'm here with Whitney Holliday from Can't Honey Coffee.
Hello, everyone.
Whitney's very excited to be here.
I am.
Yeah, so we're going to learn a little bit more about Whitney, learn about coffee, learn a little bit about her story. Your questions come on in, we're going to chat, say hi to everybody. And yeah, it's going to be a good episode. Just to continue our conversation from the other night we talked about during our pre-interview.
Awesome.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. It's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward. Guide you through. If you need a break on the promises, just let me know. We'll see what Vance take a break.
I'll do it.
Vance is the man behind the scenes, everybody. He's in the back room there, hanging out.
Vance and Tiny.
Vance and Tiny, yes. Tiny is not so tiny, but well.
She's adopted new boys, though.
Yes.
So he's in perfectly.
I love that.
I know. I asked him where he got it from.
I love that. So, yeah, Vance said he wants some coffee.
He said black coffee, though. He doesn't want your caramel milk. I know. Still nursing it.
Yeah, it's my summer when I bought it. I was like, I gotta bring it home.
I should have done no ice for you, though, next time.
So good. Yeah,
I
nice. But oat milk.
Oat milk.
Oat milk, yeah.
I'm new to oat milk, actually, but we sell a ton of it. Like, obviously, it's the new thing. And it does have a really nice flavor.
Yeah. Vance is just doing something. Yes. It's making a mess. I don't know, you're making a mess. I don't know. One of the things around this time, last time we started the show, and I guess Mike was off the first minute. So we're all good. And the thing about having the studio that comes out is going to keep coming in, obviously.
Even when you're not here.
Me?
Yeah.
Hello?
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
Okay. I'll hear you on here, just not in queue.
Okay.
Did you say something?
No.
We're just talking about you. We're just talking about you.
I felt like that. You know, I forgot I had my food in there. And when you get here, like, whoa. I'm scared.
We're about to end out, that's for it.
Look laughing.
You know, behind the scenes radio.
I actually love it. So I've been a podcast for all 4 years. I mean, before it was cool. So
Yeah.
this is very interesting to watch.
Well, actually, it's something here. And I'll go ahead and look at me talking. Okay, perfect. Have you on camera, like looking here, looking at the corner. Show that guys. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Prosperity Lounge. We're hoping freedom with growth gets personal. I'm Joey Ruffalo, I'm an author, financial coach, and your go-to guide for making smart money moves, building businesses with purpose, and creating a life with peace, clarity, and impact. For tuning in tonight, thank you so much again for joining us on our new Friday night time slot. We're live every Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on Praise 96.3 FM. Also streaming in real time on the Praise app and on YouTube at the Prosperity Lounge. Also on Facebook, you can find us there as well under the Joey Ruffalo profile. That's just temporary for now. The thing with Facebook, guys, every 30 days those videos get deleted. If you want to watch the replays, make sure you are on the YouTube channel. So head over to youtube.com at the Prosperity Lounge, hit subscribe, and hop into the chat. We love to hear from you and your questions, comments, and of course, all your support from us and your podcast tonight. You can call us, and please call us. We're still waiting for our first caller. Chevy out there, Mountains, 865-577-4885, 865-574-885. And if you don't feel like calling, you can text us, 865-236-1791. That is 865-236-1791. Text us during the show if you have a question. So last week we had a powerful conversation with Brad Fleming from Home Smiles, Knoxville. He talked about protecting your biggest investment, your home. Brad reminded us that small maintenance now saves big expenses later. He also shared how being proactive in home care is really financial wellness in disguise. Again, if you've been listening for a while, running with being proactive versus reactive. It's really become a lot here. Oh, yeah, I love it. Key takeaways from the show last week. We had a comparison of oil changes in your car. Why you would speak oil changes or car maintenance. So why are you ignoring your HVAC, your gutters, your dryer vents, typical home maintenance stuff? Talked about preventative home maintenance. It's one of the most overlooked parts of financial planning. Most people just pay for it when it comes, as opposed to planning for it. And perhaps most powerful, maintenance gives you peace of mind, not just protection. I love that. Thanks, Brad, for coming on and for giving us that wisdom. If you missed it, you can go back and watch the replay. And while you're listening, don't forget to visit prosperitylounge.com. There you'll find our free 8-step action guide, living paycheck to paycheck. I said living paycheck to paycheck. Stop. To stop living paycheck to paycheck. That's what we're going to stop. Our student wealth survival kit and access to our prosperity plan, our budgeting tool that's free for 30 days to help hundreds already gain clarity and control of their money. Now tonight's guest brings that same energy, ownership, and intention, just in a totally different setting. Her name is Whitney Holliday, and she is the founder of Camp Honey Coffee, a brand new coffee shop and community space right here in Knoxville. From burnout breakdowns to brave and bold new beginnings, Whitney's story is a perfect blend of personal grade and public grace. If you ever dream of starting over, starting new, or turning a meaningful chapter into your powerful mission, this episode is for this. So today I'm excited to welcome someone who's turned pain into purpose and burnout bravery. Whitney Holliday, founder of Camp Honey Coffee in Knoxville. Whitney's story is small, real, and incredibly inspiring. We had a great conversation the other day. We met about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Even less than that, actually. It's been crazy. From outside, it looked like she had her child in Syria, a federal winning now profit role, a resume full of accomplishments, but behind the scenes, burning out, losing herself, reaching a breaking point, walking away from everything she knew without a job lined up. Crazy, I know. Took a trip to New York City alone, rediscovered herself, came back with one goal: never work for anyone else again. I love that. But followed with fresh force and courage, fueled by a mix of heartbreak, honesty, and a little bit of holy anger. Whitney watched you come coffee with her husband Brian by her side. There was everything, including health insurance, savings, ability to create a space that would heal others the way she would get. Now, this isn't just a coffee shop. I believe I've been there a couple times already. In fact, for those on the live stream, I am Rick. My camera on the high school about the prosperity. We'll talk more about it later. It's a space for community inclusion, brave conversations, and Whitney's leadership style. I love this, everybody. So you can learn from this. Control leadership, dishes, bathrooms, espresso machines, doing it all. Not because she has to, but because she wants to lead by example. Her story is a reminder that your lowest moment may be your launching pad to your greatest breakthrough. So let's meet Whitney. Now, can't tell you coffee from the crazy and COVID, who has already become a cozy Tennessee stable. Whitney, welcome to the launch. We're glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Joey. That was the nicest thing I've ever heard about myself. Thank you.
Well, it's all you. We had a great conversation the other night about each other. And, I mean, you're just inspiring.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So I want to get into a little bit of your background and then a little bit more on the shit and coffee. But you talked a bit about, and some of the intro talked about, you left what you would consider a dream job. Can you talk about what finally pushed you to say, I'm done?
Yeah, I think that the burnout is exactly, what led me where I am now. I will say it was an extremely difficult time period of my life, but now coming out on the other side of it, I am so grateful for the experience. Protecting yourself from burnout is something that, having had this conversation with several people now, I see that burnout is a major problem in the workforce. And it's something that I'm now trying to prevent in myself and prevent in my employees as well. I really want to be a good employer. That's something that's majorly important to me and is my mission, behind the scenes, because I feel like no one can pour from an empty cup. I was pouring from an empty cup for so long. And now, I want to make sure that everyone surrounding me's cup is full so that we can all move forward together. I think it's really important, like you said, shoulder to shoulder. And, going back to, being proactive rather than reactive. Every approach I take, I try to be proactive rather than reactive now. I think I lived in a reactive space for so long in my professional life that may have caused a lot of my burnout. So I'm really trying to prevent that from happening now.
Love that. And I'll a quick aside from this. So far, every episode I've had guests on, they've used puns that are related to their business. You talk about your cup running over, Brad talked about hammering home something last week. Maybe it's a couple weeks ago, we're talking about like Joe or something.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how that works out.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to get back to the burnout question for a second. I don't want to delve too much into it because I know sometimes it's fresh for people and it's a lot to talk about. But what are some things that you identified now looking back on that situation you can identify as these were signs that I was starting to get burned out? This way people may be able to, who are living in these situations, might be able to sort of self-identify that they are actually in a burnout situation.
Right. I think it all started mentally at first, and then it became physical, actually. It got to the point that I physically could not work an entire day in the environment that I was in without having some sort of reaction. And that is when I knew that it was time to stop. I lost 70 pounds over the last year and really decided to make my health a priority. That was physical and mental. And having the physical reaction on my body that I did, I'm so glad that I had made health a priority in that space as well, because that helped, prevent it from being a total implosion. But it was extremely difficult time, and I'm so glad to be on the other side now. That it can absolutely happen to anybody. It doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter who you are. I just care a lot about what I do. I always have, and that leads to some consequences. And that was a consequence of the environment that I was in. Was the total burnout, and that is something that I really hope that people stop it before it gets to the point that I was at. and just recognizing the signs within yourself. I think it's going to be different for absolutely everybody. Everybody responds differently to aversion and challenges and things like that. And just because I was in the environment that I was in, I tried to put on a brave face and, continue forward, and just wasn't possible anymore. And I just left. I absolutely left one day and never went back.
So you got to a point that was a breaking point for you, but that breaking point was so far down the burnout hole, so to speak. That what are some things that you could suggest for people? We kind of talked about this the other day a little bit. In full disclosure, we have a guest come on. I have a deep conversation with them at a time to learn about more about this. So I'm asked, so I'm referring back to that a little bit. But we had this conversation about you got to the point where, okay, you couldn't take it anymore, but you're so far in the burnout hole. What are some things that you should suggest for people who are sort of getting there, but maybe just think about, I don't want to say courage, more of the courage to jump ship and find something else, but maybe just they don't know how to do that. They think they're stuck in where they're at. This is the life they're going to have to live. But you're the proof that there's hope on the other side of it. So what's a piece of advice for somebody who's in that right now?
I think feeling helpless and stuck was something that I definitely felt with. And at the time, I was trying to take in some more ownership over that, personally as well. And not fight back, but stand up for myself and, communicate things like that, with my team as well. It wasn't that I felt like I didn't communicate, but I wasn't heard. And so maybe adjusting my approach would have been something that I could have done. Maybe I think just being quiet, listening for your purpose. I think it'll find you. Mine found me in a time that was really hard and dark. So I feel like if I could find mine during that time, anybody can. And finding what my purpose is now how I prevent burnout. I am exhausted right now. I work 20 hours a day. I do nothing but think about this business, but I'm not burnt out. It's a different life that I have now. And I think taking the ownership over my situation was what put me there. No one's going to save you. You have to save yourself.
I love that. There was something that was told me a long time ago. My dad told me this, but it's a phrase that's been around a long time. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
I think that that's exactly what's happening here. And I know that I can do more and I can, grow this, but trying to get my feet under me right now with what it already is so interesting and fun. And, the sky's the limit. And that's so cliche and silly to say, but it really is. I mean, there is no top anymore. I can do absolutely anything I want to do. And you mentioned, never working for another person again. That was just my personal experience. I've just had really, really negative experiences with employers in the past, whether it be corporate America, where we were in COVID and the owner of the company was on a yacht doing video calls with us while we were all, being put on temporary leave and, losing our jobs. It was just like the forethought of that it was wild. And then, working in nonprofit with people that oftentimes have God complexes, that was a little bit tough as well. And I just decided that I never wanted to work for anyone else again. I wanted every ounce of effort that I put into my job to go back to my family. And now that's what I have.
I love that. And I shared before on the show, and I shared with you on a call that I had a similar situation where I worked for somebody for like a week. It's McDonald's, by the way. And I was off, and they called me up saying, "Hey, come on the work. You're on the board." I said, "Not." Back and forth. They read the board, and the board said, "John, 8 to 5." I said, "My name's Joey. It doesn't matter. Come on in." And I said, "You know what? I'm done." And it was one of those situations where as looking at a leadership position, he was in charge of you, not being respectful of your time and just knowing who you are. And then that kind of shaped me to say, I'm not going to work for somebody else. I got to take ownership of my own life and not leave it to somebody else, because somebody else could be just stepping on me or keeping me down. If I don't even realize, am I living to potential? And then situations are how I look at people and guide situation about that loss. And it's this thing where I got another situation, maybe personal involved with them. And I, lift them up and you lift it up. It sounds like that same situation came out of this street where you're leading that shoulder to shoulder. You're being there with churches. If you ever go to the shop, I guarantee you, whether it's in the shop, you can't come in the car, Lion Shoe, right by Lakeshore Park. Amazing place. You walk in, you see Whitney running around like a chicken without a head, doing everything. And she has a full stuff, but she was doing everything. It is fabulous. I don't fantastic. Honestly, it's fantastic to see, but it's fantastic to see because a lot of times people want to open a business and you don't see the owner. And left in employees to staff, things just don't go well. And the police then suffers, the owner gets fined and complains about nobody showing up and why, why you're not present. I mean, you're in this situation, and I have all confidence that you're going to succeed at the ends of the earth on this. But I have every faith that if you decide down the line and do something else, that you're going to live. You gave it your all.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm feeling about your personality.
I think everybody has so much potential in this world, and I think a lot of times that's not seen or that's not acted upon. And if I could do anything, to encourage people to live up to their potential and take risks and be brave and all the things that we're encouraged to do, but it's just easier said than done. It was not easy to be brave. It wasn't. It's still not. But I'm so glad I did it. Yeah, I'm so glad I did it. So
I'm glad too.
Yeah.
I mentioned the solo trip to New York City during a certain time. What role did that trip play in helping you rediscover yourself, and why New York?
Well, I actually went during COVID. So in between my corporate job and my nonprofit job, I had a similar, burnout situation and didn't know what I wanted to do next. So it was COVID, hotel rooms were cheap. I got my husband's blessing to leave my family for 2 weeks and went to New York. The city was empty. I was able to go eat where I wanted. I went to museums. I went, just met people and, really, really never been alone before. I got married when I was 19. I went from my parents' house straight to my husband. Just never really had the opportunity to kind of have some self-reflection, and that was a really good time for that. It led me into something else that was unexpected as well, and I'm grateful for the time that I spent there as well. That I learned that it still wasn't what I wanted. Even like you said, every job that seemed like the perfect fit, the perfect opportunity, way more than I ever should have been compensated for, amazing benefits and stuff like that in corporate America. There is a trade-off for that. And I don't want to have the trade-off anymore either. I think that I'm kind of preventing that by owning it myself. And, I do, like you said, I wash every dish in the shop. That's something that's important to me. It's mindful, it's a way that my employees don't have to do that. I clean the bathrooms myself. I'm not going to do that forever, but I want to right now while I can. And I think that, servant leadership is something that is often preached, but not actually acted upon. And I don't see myself as a servant leader. I see myself as an active leader, if that makes sense. So literally running around with my staff, making sure that everything is taken care of and every, table is cleaned between guests, and, things like that. I also have a hospitality background, and it's something that is truly instilled in my heart is to provide people with an environment that is happy and, welcoming and inclusive and all of those things is extremely important to me as well.
I love that. I love the fact that you're in the trenches.
In the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people, it's one of those things where if you're working and you're tired, let's say I'm an employee there and I'm tired, and I look at you, you're just scrubbing at the dish, and what am I going to be like? Oh, look at her. She's doing all the dishes. I guess I do. It's like you said, it's different when you have a situation where a boss either is not present or is an ivory tower and never worked a day in the field, never worked a day in business, or never worked in the trenches. And you're like, how can they wait why am I going back for them? Why am I showing up to work when I'm not feeling well? Why am I giving 110%? Why am I staying late? Why am I running? Like, well, because they are.
Yeah.
Example.
Right. And I feel like I really do. I just want to be a good employer. It's so important to me. And also, in full transparency, I don't know what I'm doing. And none of us do. And that's just the truth. We may not. And I'm letting them train me too. I don't know everything. Most of them have been baristas for years. I had never made a professional cup of coffee when I opened my shop. And I need them. I really need them to show me how to do things. And hopefully they need me to show them how to do things. And I think that's the relationship, right? It's not a trade-off, it's a relationship.
Absolutely. And that it really turns into a family.
Yeah. And I will say I have gotten burned in the past by the family dynamic. And during our training session, when I had to close down for a few days when we first opened to hire people and train them, and I really wanted to do it very intentionally. So we had a meal together and we all discussed, everything we wanted to do going forward. And I think, opening up the conversation for them as well, they have buy-in now, like I listen to their opinions. Half of the drinks on the menu were created by the baristas that work for us. It's really it's an environment that fosters their creativity and their excitement for what we're doing too. And I think they feel like they're bought in. It's part of the group now. As we are a legitimate team, but I'm not going to call us a family because that is something that you can't choose. They are choosing to work for me and they are choosing to come back every day. And that's something that I want to continue to give them that choice as well.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Many people dream of starting something. Few people act. What was the turning point that you knew? And kind of touched on a little bit. The turning point that you knew that Campany Coffee had to happen.
I'd say when I cashed out my 401k
Well,
and just went for it. Like I did everything wrong, but so far it's been so right. And I'm so glad that I didn't listen to the people that told me not to do it. The people that had doubts. And I will say that it was not a welcomed process. My family was not supportive, except my husband obviously was, but my extended family was not supportive. A bunch of friends were very scared, and you and I discussed this. People are often scared for you when you make a brave move, and that's fine. But it also creates more trouble. It creates more, it was harder on my heart to have to prove them wrong too. And I would have rather just proved the public wrong instead of the people that I loved. I'll just say it that way.
Okay.
No.
So when you were getting this going, I have to back up for a second because you had a plan in place, I would assume, to get this started. I'm looking at me so no. Oh boy. Because the 401k cash out is one of those things where if you tell me, hey, I'm catching the 401k, I'm like, oh no. It's like the last thing I would probably suggest somebody doing. Now, that being said, you have a plan in place that says this is what we're doing, and this is how it's going to be funded, and this is how we're going to return it. Because cashing out the 401k is just especially for this situation, there's tax hits, there's penalties, there's a lot of stuff you get hit with in order to have this happen. So that's an even bigger risk you guys took to do that, but the money was there to do it.
And I will say the money was there to do it because I worked in the environment that I worked in before. Corporate America may have been tough on my soul, but it also had amazing benefits that helped me develop my 401k, helped me contribute to my 401k, things like that I wouldn't have been able to do any of this if I hadn't had those pieces in place already. I did not have a plan. I just decided, I went step by step, took it bite by bite, and that's still what I'm doing. I just keep going and it works out. I don't know how else to explain it other than it just has worked out.
Well, they said, how do you eat an elephant? Bite at a time.
Yeah, there really wasn't a plan, Joey. I'll be honest.
Okay.
Like, I mean, other than
See your dance.
yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I'm so glad I did it. I'm glad that there wasn't a plan. And I am a planner. I make lists constantly. I have a Type A personality. Like I absolutely have a plan most of the time. But in this case, I kind of let the plan develop around, the process, if that makes sense. And then the process, paid off, and here we are.
Sometimes it's a leap of faith.
Literally, yeah, it really was, and I'm so glad I did it. And now just everyone that comes in and tells me they're proud of me, heals me little by little and makes me less resentful for being alone during that time and being unsupported. It's okay. My husband supported me. He always has. I think if you can find one person to support you in anything scary, that's really all you need.
Well, let's talk about Ryan for a second.
Yes.
Ryan's your partner,
Yes.
business partner, life partner. What kind of role do you play in this transition? You talked about support. You said a few times that paraphrase the way to support you, but Ryan supporting you. Ryan said, we always take our spouses for granted. When I say, so I'm the same way. Nobody's wrong. My wife's behind me 100%. I just take that for granted when I talk. But we got to support you there. Obviously, every time I come to these, and they're doing pretty much the same stuff you're doing.
He's there right now.
He's using espresso machine.
Yes, he's there right now cleaning up from our day while I get to leave and do these things. Ryan has always been my biggest supporter. We met when we were 15 years old at a church youth group at like a walk-in situation, and we've been together ever since. And I would say we're extremely codependent. I really don't do anything without him. Obviously, getting married at 19 was ill-advised as well, but I did it. And I'm so glad I did that too. We're still together, and he is my biggest supporter. And any crazy idea I ever have, he's the first one to sign up. He left his very good job, to help support me. We ran out of money doing all of this. I didn't have a plan. So we were kind of going, step by step, and things ended up being more expensive than I was quoted. Things took twice as long as they were supposed to, things like that. And he decided instead of letting me fail, that he would jump in with me. And he does that in every respect of our relationship as well. We also weren't able to conceive, so we went through an adoption process. And that was a crazy, isolating time as well, that, other people were scared for us during that time as well. We had each other. And I knew going through that process with him and how beautifully that turned out, that this would succeed with him by my side. And, he planned on joining me eventually. He didn't plan on joining me so soon, but I'm so glad he did.
I love that. You talk about 19 years old, not being, well, I'll say, I was 20, my wife was 19, and we got married. And we are 3 weeks shy of 25 years.
Hey, sometimes it works out.
Sometimes it works out.
Yeah.
Most rare situation like this.
I don't think it's as rare as you think. I hope not.
I'm trying to make myself so special.
I don't know that I would suggest getting married at 19 to just everybody, but I did it.
It's tough, but again, it's one of those things. I'm going to say this again. I'm going to assume you didn't have a plan. You just went through it and just thought this is what's going to happen. It can be tough. My gosh. But they're still here with us, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If that's about them or this is about us.
No, that's true. He's the only person I've ever dated. So I always say I'm either very good at dating or very bad at dating, because I never had to do it again, thankfully, and hopefully I never have to do it again. But yeah, he is truly my biggest supporter. I couldn't do any of this without him. And now, I do have the support of my family and friends, on the other side of things. And I'm so glad, I understand why people were scared for me. You and I discussed this. It's just part of the job, for people to be worried for you when you are making a big change or doing something that, maybe statistically is unlikely to work out. It's just being brave enough to not worry about that and just see what happens.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I love your story.
Thank you.
I don't need a break or anything. Perfect. We're gonna keep going. I love it. It's gonna be a thumbs up for me. Can't say it's the buttons. So yes. Yeah, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about coffee.
Yeah.
So we talked about this on the show. I love coffee. I got the coffee right now. This is the caramel iced mocha with oat milk from Canada Coffee. I love coffee so much. My wife loves coffee so much. You can tell, hey, Joe, this coffee has hints of macadamia nut and chocolate and this cherry. I can't tell the difference. I just like drinking coffee. The vibe it brings, the community aspect of it, fun coffee shops you go into and see what the vibe is in there. And we plan our road trips around coffee shops. I mean, we drive to Nashville. Nashville is a 2.5 hour drive, maybe. It takes us 3.5 sometimes because we are stopping at coffee shops all. We try to find movements on the map to go to and hit them up, and enjoy ourselves. And we drove to DC one time. It's a 7 hour drive. It took us 11 hours because we stopped at like 4 or 5 coffee shops along the way just to try. And it's the same, like, oh, so you're looking for me all the time. But it's just, yeah, going and seeing the vibe is in the community because coffee shops are really, especially local ones, as opposed to the corporate ones, are really the sense of what the community is like, what the vibe is like in that neighborhood. And I love checking them out and seeing what's going on and see who's in there, who's working, who's got kids in there, who's kind of drinks are on the menu, what are the themes of the drink, whether they reflect something about the town or something about the barista or the owner or something like that. We thought, gosh, we want to say it last weekend. Wow. And you wouldn't know that it was like your first week or two open. The way things were running, how busy it was, and smooth it was from the customer's perspective. I can see house to house if you guys were busy. But from our side, it looked like it was an open, running a low machine. And I love that. I love that perception that you guys gave off. It was great. And I stopped there today and it was busy.
And it feels different now. Like, I'm glad that it didn't come across, to just everyone that we were struggling and that it was something new for us. And it was, our very first time doing anything like that. And, we kind of just jumped in and let it be. And now it already feels so, we're only 2 weeks in and it feels like a different shop already, just having help and having experienced baristas and having, the community support you mentioned. When I started this, I did the same thing. I would go around to different coffee shops, ask questions, say, what machine do you use? Do you like it? Is there anything about your bar layout that you would change now? When I was going into developing it, I didn't know what I was doing. So I asked people that did. And oftentimes those people were so lovely and so helpful and really guided me through the process, which is if you can ask someone to help you at least get pointed in the right direction, I would highly suggest that. Now that's what I ask people. I say, can you point me in the right direction? If you can't help me, can you at least help me understand where it is I need to go find the help? So I think one of my first stops is this place called Spread Market and Larder in Nashville, in Germantown. And I went in and the owner was sitting there at a table and I just walked up to him and I said, hey, can you give me a piece of business advice from somebody that's starting this from the ground up? I want to be similar to this. How do I do that? And he told me, find your location and develop the business around your community. And that's what I did. I was born and raised in the area that I am now serving. I went to high school up the street. I passed the building every day. I think I knew what the community needed. I thought I knew. And then opening the doors, now I see that it's exactly what they needed. And everyone thanks me for, doing this where I did it and saying, they helped me develop the business around them. And I think that that's what's been so helpful too, is like I'm providing a need to the community and the community is giving back to me. And that is so exciting. And it feels so collaborative. And I love that. That's was something that I miss in working with others is collaboration. So now I collaborate with the community, if that makes sense, and then try to fill a need that they have instead of determining on my own what I think the need is.
So it was like, let's say divine intervention from Create 96.3, but I'll say divine intervention where you develop a location around, find a location, develop business around it. You found a location that needed this niche. It wasn't like you're going into, I don't want to throw Ferrari on the
I know, right? Really anywhere else is what you can say.
I was gonna say anywhere else, you walk down the street and there's 4 coffee shops in the corner. You go, I don't know if we'll open a coffee shop here.
Right.
Great, it's not gonna work. It may or may not, but it's gonna be tough. You went into a situation in your space where there was a black hole for that. And you just were like, there's a need for this here. I mean, you gotta know why it's not, why isn't this here yet? Mm-hmm. It's either a good thing or a bad thing.
I take it as a very good thing. Yeah. And that's what felt wild too, is why has no one else thought about this before? Like why, and now having opened the doors, people come in and tell me all the time, oh, I thought about this forever ago and I never did it, things like that. So that is really fun to hear now, but also my son goes to school 1 minute away. We spend a lot of our time at Lakeshore Park playing sports. So I have been that mom sitting there on a Saturday with nothing to drink or eat. And I wanted to do that, to serve those people too. Serving people is about more than just serving someone that may, certain communities. It's serving all communities and, fitting it, finding a need to, like I said, pour into others. It doesn't really matter who you're pouring into. Just everyone could use encouragement. There's no one on this earth that can't use a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of goodwill, a little bit of kindness. That's why coffee helps. Because like you said, it's the great connector too. Some people don't like coffee, but most people do. And if there's not something that they like in coffee, I hope I provide something else in the shop that they are looking for as well. And we ask, everyone that comes through, it's a collaborative experience in the shop too. I don't know if you've noticed that. Sometimes people will order something and then Ryan will come to them and say, let me talk to you about it. Let me talk to you how I make it. See if there's something that I can do differently or better here. And that's something that I have been preaching since I was in corporate America. And I would talk to my customers and say, is there anything that I can do differently or better? And that's something that I would bring to every one-on-one with my bosses. That's something that I genuinely feel that, and I want to do better all the time. I want it to be a space that everyone enjoys. And so I ask that all the time, and I still ask that. Is there anything that I can do better here? And I think continuing to do that will only serve the community more.
Perfect. I love that. We talked about the name Camp Honey Coffee, and I know the story how it started with bees. But can you share your bee story?
Yes, my bee story. So during COVID, everyone got a stimulus check. Well, a lot of people did. I don't know if everyone did. We got a stimulus check. And with that check, we decided we wanted to have a little bit more financial freedom because I was working in hospitality in a time that nobody was traveling and I was scared. So I wanted to have a little bit more ownership over my finances. And we thought, what could we do that would be kind of creative and different for us that wasn't within, my husband worked in a warehouse and a plant and, he never saw the light of day. So we decided to get him out a little bit too. He thought beekeeping would be fun. So he took the master beekeeping course at UT and, we bought 6 hives and it was over 100,000 bees. And within the first spring, they all absconded, is what it's called. So they just leave. Bees are wild animals. We put them in the Cherokee National Forest. They had waterfalls. They had wildflowers. It was like could not have been a better environment for bees, and they still left. So we learned that you can't control that, and maybe that wasn't for us. So we decided to park the LLC for a few years and decide what we wanted to do next. But in opening the coffee shop, I decided, coming up with branding is very difficult, and coming up with a unique name, coming up with anything like that that's unique is very different. And so I just used the same name and, turned it into coffee. And, the LLC is just Camp Honey. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Coffee is only a part of it. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I just wanted to keep my original LLC as kind of like a nod to failure too, that it wasn't a failure. Now I was able to take the same thing and turn it into something profitable.
Well, I love it too because the vibe you show up, especially outside, you have tables. So it looks like almost like a campground, you're showing up like something like a lodge at a campground. So it does fit the motif.
Yeah, and I've always loved picnic as and a lot of our business is based on snacks. We often don't eat full meals. We like to have snacks, and I decided to make just some unique snacks, and I integrate local provisioners in that, and try to support as many independent businesses as I can through that as well. And that has been such an amazing community to be a part of too. Is anyone else that I can support in this, I'm trying to. And I think that has helped me be more fruitful too. Of it really does pay back. I really do. I believe that.
Yeah. Speaking of local, you mentioned when we chatted about using Facebook Marketplace to get a lot of the stuff for the shop and procuring a lot of stuff. Obviously, that's a lot of local things. How did that shape the overall vibe of Camp Honey when you're down there trying to get all that stuff together?
Well, I would say too, my husband is very grateful because a lot of that stuff had just been in our house for a long time. I'm a collector of baskets. I'm a collector of cookbooks. Those are things that were kind of already all over my house. And I just developed a business based on that. And then most of that, all of my chairs were on Facebook Marketplace. Most of the furniture, was kind of found. And even just the other day, I met like a lovely couple doing a Facebook Market pickup. I run and do all this myself. And then she ended up giving me her dog. She's moving out of town. That's why she was selling the things. She gave me her dog biscuit recipe because she bakes. She used to have like a pop-up thing at a Maryville farmers market, and she was like, "I would love to give you my recipe, and that way, if I have any customers that are missing me, they can come to you and do the same thing."
Awesome. And
I think even that is a community. I think that you can. I mean, just being a little bit talkative is something that helps me in a lot of ways too, because I'm not afraid to introduce myself. I'm not afraid to say what I'm doing. I'm not afraid to ask for help either when I need it, which is something that I have learned here at the end of this journey as well, is when people offer help, take it. And that really has helped shape, how it's turned, and into being, less found items. Now we're able to buy commercial tables if we choose. But at first, I was just trying to go based on what I could afford and what I thought would be pretty. And what's so interesting is now we get, 40 Instagram pictures a day of people tagging the space and saying it's so cute and saying, that if they could have opened a coffee shop, this is what it would look like. And that just makes me so happy that my little thoughts and the things that I thought would be cute turned out to be something that other people enjoyed too. So that's been really exciting too.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously you guys, you're talking about community and having a clear mission that goes beyond coffee, and then talking about obviously having a conversation around mental health and not having it be a taboo topic. Community's response been so far to that mission that you're putting into place, as well as the openness around the conversation on mental health.
So nice. And, I went through a major mental health crisis at the beginning of all of this. And it was something that I had to navigate alone. And being vulnerable on the internet now has been the wildest thing, because 10 times a day somebody stops me and says, "Thank you for being vulnerable about your mental health on the internet." And that makes me keep going, as long as it's helping. If it helps a single person for me to have a nervous breakdown online, I'm happy to do it. I really think that this will turn into a mental health, not platform, but definitely the next part of this will revolve around mental health in some ways. The system is extremely broken. I went through a really hard time not having resources. Like you mentioned, I lost my health insurance when I left my job and I wasn't able to seek professional help anymore. And that was extremely upsetting and isolating. And, that is something that I would love to prevent anyone else from going through again. And I also think, the part of being a good employer and stuff is I listen to my staff. If they need mental health support, I'm happy to help them with that or find them the appropriate resources. Honestly, if anybody needs help finding it. And I think just being candid about it and being honest about it has been the only way to approach it. I don't know how else to do it at this point except just be honest about it. And it is extremely vulnerable and hard, but I am happy to do it. And I really hope that the mission at some point turns into more of a mental health support. I think coffee is also mental health support. I really do. Or just the environment, like you said, that we're trying to foster. If anyone's having a bad day, please come to the shop. Let us love on you. Let us make you something to eat and drink and send you back out into the world to try and fight, because I know it's hard. And I absolutely, and my husband, struggles with mental health too. It's not anything that is just me, and happy to support anyone in that space. And it is hard to ask for help, and please ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, and obviously having an outlet, listening to somebody else talk about it, and relating. Sometimes it's just enough for people to kind of take that first step.
Yeah, it takes the guard down from people too. I think just being as transparent about it as I can breaks people's walls pretty quickly, and really, that's the first step in building relationships too. Is I was a relationship manager professionally, and now I get to do it for fun, and that's been really really rewarding as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
So this is going to lead into the next question, but what are some of your future dreams or events? Talk about expansion already. What are some of these plans you have in place? Let me rephrase it. I don't have a plan in place.
No.
You have these thoughts in place, you want a plan together with Australia. You want these things.
Yes.
What are some things that you are thinking about for expansion or your goals for Canada Coffee?
We have a kitchen that's about 50 feet. It's a very, very small space. And I can do a lot with the convection oven and a food processor. But I would love a bigger kitchen to be able to explore food options as well. I have always loved to cook and bake, and part of the theme of the shop is the fair. I compete in the Tennessee Valley Fair every year in the culinary arts, and I've won several ribbons for my work, including the Sweetwater Valley Cheese Award, which is my crowning achievement to this date, because I've been training in cheese culinary arts for years now, and that was pretty much the only awards I've ever been given, but I'll take it. I'm really excited to expand the food, though, to get to be more creative with it. And within my own working environment is so funny. Like, we are literally prepping everything for food service right in front of you while you order coffee, because I don't have anywhere else to go. So it's a pleasure, but I would also love a little bit more space. So we are going to try and eventually look into having a commercial kitchen. I will also say that commercial kitchens in this area are very hard to come by. And I would love to be able to offer that space to other people as well, emerging bakers, things like that, because they can't sell their things without a commercial kitchen. That system is really difficult to navigate. So offering that space to the community would be really impactful for me, because other people, especially women, I would love to support them, be able to to live their dream. And if cooking is your dream, then hopefully I can help with that. And just expanding on coffee roasting would probably be our next step. Right now, we use Likewise Coffee on Magnolia.
Okay.
They run a women's nonprofit, and they have been so lovely to work with. They let us develop our own blend, and we ran out of matcha the other day, and the owner brought us a bag to the shop, and that is also a very special relationship that I am so appreciative of. And I would say roasting coffee would be another step. That's something Ryan would like to get into. He's a very scientific mind, and he loves, that he makes all of our syrups in house, also right in front of you. So, and they are. That's really exciting. So we could eventually bottle and sell our own syrup. Things like that. We're not even sure exactly. Again, we don't have a plan. We're just seeing what works and what we love, and then going from there. Whatever makes our hearts happy, we're gonna expand on that, and that's what's next. But finding a space for that will be my next mission. I've already reached out to a few places to try and find a perfect spot for us to land that, and that's going to be my next area of focus.
Oh man, big things.
Yeah.
Speaking of big things, you guys have a promotion coming up with Young Williams.
You do.
And to sort of kick off on that, or play off on that a little bit, we are coming up with our own sort of mini promotion here for listeners of the Prosperity Lounge. If you come in and order, this is what I'm calling it. I texted you the other day. So call it this. Okay.
I wrote it down. Let's go.
The Prosperity Lounge mocha. It's a caramel iced mocha. You can get it without oat milk if you want. I get it with oat milk.
I'm a dairy girl. We got whole milk for Bibles too,
You can
guys.
get it warm if you want hot coffee as well. It's fine. But you got to get the caramel mocha.
Mhm.
And a portion of the proceeds are going to go to Young Williams. But you got to put the Prosperity mocha when you come in. And a portion that's going to go to Young Williams. But you're also doing another thing with Young Williams too.
Yes. Coming up on July 5th it's mine and Ryan's son's 9th birthday. And he loves dogs more than anyone I've ever met. And he wants to do a fundraiser for Young Williams because people keep bringing dogs to the shop, and it's not legal to let dogs inside. So we are trying to be more pet friendly. So we are doing a big fundraiser to build picnic tables in our side yard and fence in the area so that it can be more dog friendly, and we can have a space for people to enjoy their coffee with their dogs. It really is. It's a thing on Saturdays, for these people to take their dogs to Lakeshore and spend time with them, and we want to be able to support that. And Young Williams is our neighborhood animal shelter. A bunch of my staff is adopted from our dog came from Granger County Humane Society, but most of my staff is adopted from Young Williams. The gentleman running the board in here adopted Tiny, which is a pit bull, from Young Williams as well. And they just do really, really amazing work, and we're excited to support them. And also, just build that community space in their honor as well, and continue to support them. It won't be a one-day thing. It'll be an ongoing thing, and we hope to develop it with several other organizations. Like I said, I worked in nonprofit, and I have a huge heart for it. I didn't know exactly how I would support it going forward, but this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm excited to be able to do it my own way and, be able to give back.
I love that. So getting close to the top of the hour, I want to get into one of my favorite parts of the show is our Q&A. This is where we hear directly from the listeners. Real questions from our guests, for a lot of questions for our guests. A couple questions for me, but not too much. I love this part because as we're building our community here, it's paying attention. We're asking great questions. We're growing together. I love it. I have a ton of questions for Whitney, but we're going to get to one or two of them right here. Let's see a good one here. Jared in Johnson City sent this on the website. Said, Whitney, you mentioned being driven by anger at first. I might have mentioned it as well. How did it turn this productive instead of destructive?
I think I sat with the anger long enough that it turned into something that fueled me. And that was really important when I was so low with my mental health. and I don't know that it's productive to use anger, but it's what I use. It's what I use in the beginning. I will say, obviously, my mindset is very different now, but I was in a really dark place, and that being mad about it is what gave me the bravery to change it. And I'm grateful for that opportunity now. It was extremely hard, but I needed it. I needed the push, and I think that it worked.
That's amazing. Emily from Calvin City asked, how do you manage your mental health now as a small business owner with all the added stress?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I mean, in full transparency, losing my health insurance lost my medications as well. And that was something that don't, I wasn't prepared for, but I have navigated it through positivity now. Like I said, when I open that door every day and people are waiting outside for what I am providing, it heals me over and over and over again. And I will absolutely need long-term mental health support, and I am seeking that right now. I've had several lovely people reach out, just being honest about it. They've reached out to offer me help, and I'm going to take the help and continue to push forward. And like I said, if I can turn any of this into a mental health support, journey, then that's going to be part of it, and that may be what's next.
Got a question in the chat here. What's your favorite drink to make?
I like the house latte. So we sell thousands of iced lattes, and I'm so interested in. We developed everything based on the iced latte, and it's so funny that now that is what sells. But the 16-ounce whole milk latte with house syrup, my husband made the syrup for me. It's maple, brown sugar, honey, and cinnamon. And the coffee is developed on it. The milk we tested for forever and ever was based on it. That's what I love.
Yeah, I love that. There's some good positive feedback here in the chat. Great interview. Thanks for sharing from Brian. Truth Between Lines is a very relatable story of building a business. Glad she accomplished everything. And we got BT Gas here in the chat. Just telling me to smile.
I'm sorry. I smile a lot at work. I'm tired.
I know. You're asking some questions too. Thanks, Noxie. We have one quick question here, but we're running to the top of the hour here. Tina had asked, Joey, when you both talked about community being a lifeline, what do you suggest for people who feel isolated and not supported in their goals? Tina, share how what you really do is find a community you can align with, whether that's a faith community, a mentorship circle, book club, something local meetups, just check Facebook groups, co-working spaces, things like that. You want to really get around people that can support you up. It might mean trying multiple things out, multiple places out before you settle on one. Remember, isolation might feel permanent, but it's often just a season. Stay connected, find supportive connections, and all else fails, go to Camp Honey Coffee. Have a cup of coffee. They will talk to you. They'll have a conversation. They'll talk to somebody at least that day. Key takeaways, man. Burnout doesn't have to be the end. It's the beginning. Business can be a healing space, not just a hustle space. Your support system matters more than your business plan. We learned about how to plans today. So, brave doesn't always feel good at the moment, but it leads to the life you were made for. Big one. And you don't have to build it alone. Communities out there, so is courage. So Whitney's story moved you. Go visit her and the team at Camp Honey Coffee in Knoxville. What's the address here?
5819 Lionsview Pike. We're right across from the Lakeshore Park entrance next to the Veterans Cemetery.
Perfect. And the hours are?
8 to 3, Tuesday through Sunday. We have very limited hours right now because I want to be able to take my son to school every day. But eventually we'll expand on those. And Google is always up to date with our current hours. So if we ever have to close for any reason, like we did when we were training, we update Google.
Perfect. And if you want more stories like this, you can also follow them. Actually, you can follow them on Instagram too. Everybody, sports and ball businesses. If you want more stories like this, more tools for your journey, and to grow, visit theprosperitylounge.com. get our free guide, try the planner, join the conversation. If you missed any part of today's show, be sure to get the replay on our YouTube channel or podcast feed. And while you're at it, like I said, visit prosperitylaunch.com. Get our free tools, 8-step action guides, student loan survival kit, prosperity planner budgeting tool. It's all there for your decision. If this episode encouraged or challenged you, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the Prosperity Lounge on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Next week's episode is going to be a special episode on freedom. It's July 4th. Tune in. It's going to be amazing. I hope you all get something out of it. That's it for today, friends. Thanks for pulling up a seat in the lounge, sharing your time with us. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge. Good job.
Thank you. I'm looking at my hand dripping.
This whole time, like, likes it.
I love it. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out. We have a bunch of people in here on Facebook and YouTube saying hi.
Yeah.
There's all the comments that you can see.
Thank you, guys.
Checking us out and
Love it.
stuff. Yeah, selling coffee.
I got you, man.
Telling me to smile. It's Chick Fil A Lions kids that they're a good follow. Very relatable story. Thanks for sharing. A little bit of coffee. Oh, what is the latte against it? A lot of coffee. A little bit of coffee and love.
It is. It's heavy on there.
And then great interview. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Until next time, everybody. I'll see you on the live stream. I'll probably do something this week. Next week's episode is going to be pre-recorded, but it's going to be a video. I'll play it live during our slot time. But July 4th, so I'll be on fire. Watch it. Be in the chat talking to everybody as a premiere, so that'd be a fun thing to try out. And just for the last tip on that, Facebook videos, these are live on Facebook, but they're only live on Facebook for 30 days. Facebook then deletes the video. So you lose all the, you can't lose all that stuff on Facebook that they give you. So stay here on YouTube, watch on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, and you'll get all the information today. You go on shorts, all the impromptu lives that we do, and everything else, plus the weekly show and more. Until next time, take care, everybody.
This is where momentum